right, ladies and gentlemen, since we have our panelists or role players on stage right now, let's get the ball rolling. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, diversity, we've heard a lot about it from our speakers earlier on. It is a crucial enabler of board effectiveness, especially in dealing with the continual challenges and complexities of business operations today. Having a diverse set of competencies on board is a requirement for a 21st century organization. But how do we approach diversity for boards? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, what will happen next is an unorthodox interactive session to bring boardroom diversity to life. And hence, we took it literally. We even brought the boardroom table on stage to replicate real life situation. And I'd like to introduce to you on the stage right now, we have our moderator, Yang Mulia, Tengku Farith Rithauddeen, Group CEO and co-founder of SKALI Group. We also have Nadir Ashafiq, co-founder and executive director of The Lorry. Ng Yin Sin, Chief Executive Officer of Center of Research, Advisory and Technology. Zaitun Binti Jamaluddin, Independent Non-Executive Director of Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad, and Zamir Zulkifli, Managing Director and Co-founder of Teach for Malaysia. I'd like to pass the floor to our moderator, Yamulia Tengku Farith. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. Not so used with this mic thing. Okay. So we're talking about diversity, but I think there's a special bit focus here about millennials, about the youngsters being on the board, and especially the fact that, there's a lot of startups being sprouted out. And if you can see that a lot of companies that were in the 1995, there are basically the top 10 companies that are capitalized, globally speaking, the highest top 10, 8 are new companies, and they were startups about 15, 20 years ago, right? So you can imagine how startups are important. And these startups actually are founded and developed by the people 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and so on. Okay, so these are people who are the future of global corporate activities. Okay, now, but we talked about, let me hope that this works out, but we talked about basically how startups are got to be important, and also diversity is got to be important. Excuse me, let me just pull out. I don't want to strain my neck looking at the back. But it's about why diversity is important. It's about sensitivity and empathy. Let's talk about, I think everybody knows about Forever 21. Yeah. So my kid was going, there's not going to be Forever 21 anymore. So funny speaking is that, they sell to the youngsters, but other board directors young. They didn't miss the boat about being empathy and understanding about who actually they're selling into. And we always miss this thing that the board directors got to be elderly, seniors, experienced. But we always miss that the market that they are selling to are who? Recently, over the weekend, or just middle of last week, we had the case of the Houston Rockets. The manager just basically blurted out in his tweet, long live stand for the Hong Kong demonstrators. They are the biggest team in China. The China fans, right, are supporting the Houston Rockets. And guess what happened? Everything was cancelled. Nobody's buying anything. They're basically, their merchandise on Alibaba was taken off. The merchandise from Amazon was taken out. So that's the impact. Just imagine if they had a director on board that would basically advise them accordingly. These are sensitivities and information. And obviously, one of the things that is very important is agility and the importance of actually having people to actually advise you with different things and so on. And McKinsey actually said that companies that has a very high diverse rate are actually producing 53% higher returns on average. So we have this board simulation. So we're talking about, let me just click this and hopefully it works. Okay, so we're talking about a simulation here. We have a startup. And this startup is actually connecting entrepreneurs to get the right funding and assistance from maybe government agencies, foundations, large corporations, VC angels, and private equity people. So it's a platform, okay? But we've set questions and we had a discussion here. So the background is that this startup has just raised 1 million ringgit from old money, okay? Somebody in the 60s or 70s, and said that they would like to invest in this startup. And the agenda of this board meeting is actually a 5-year business plan. Yeah, am I on the right slide? Okay. So one of the things that I want to do is address one question. It's easy to say to reduce the gap in generations, but is it really so difficult? I want to address this question to basically Zaitun, who basically had some experience here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator and everybody else. Now look, I'm a baby boomer. That's a real problem because that means I was born in 1960. I'm 59 years old, crossing to 60 years old. So between me and the millennial, there's a generation X. So I'm not really, I have to, so the millennials are my cucu really lah. You know, it's not my anak, my cucu. So the question is, the question of how do you reduce the generation gap in the boardroom, for example, and the need for millennial. For me, I think it's the clear point is, it's not whether you're millennial, you're old, you're tradition, Gen X or whatever. The point is, what do you bring to the table? Firstly, the millennials are, by the way, by definition, millennials are people who were born in 77 till about 95. Okay? My generation, the baby boomers from 46 to 64. That's considered. You must remember, I was born and brought up in an analog world. The millennials were brought up in a digital world, or at least part of their life. The Gen Z definitely, Gen Z, yang sekarang ni, is even more of a digital. Those guys don't even know what analog is, right? Okay. The point is, what is it so different? So it's mindset. Okay, today I purposely came in jeans. Why? Because I might be a 59-year-old woman, but I don't have to behave like 59. And now in the mindset of a board, in that sense, I have to learn new skills, unlearn some old skills, and be up to date, you know, and there's no excuse to not be up to date with the latest. I mean, whether you old or not. But you must remember the traditional board members who are the analog guys, they bring with them a lot of experience as well. And they've seen the ups and downs, all the problems, although it was a different setting because it wasn't digital. But the problems are the same if it's human issues or whatever, right? And I can tell you, over the weekend, I was at a dinner, and there was a picture of a guy who's now a corporate leader. I mean, he's on board of many companies, public listed companies. And I saw his picture, and he had long hair in the 1960s. I asked him, did you smoke pot? And then he just smiled, you know. So what I'm telling you, that the traditional guy that you see on the board today were young ones in an analog world. But they were creative people. They were people who have brains. They are clever people. Cuma their life, the environment at that point of time was analog, was not digital. Now, another issue that I want to just point is, there's a difference between getting involved in the millennial issue and the Industrial Revolution 4. A lot of people think millennials automatic. They everything they know about the current Internet of Things stuff. That's not true either. I think the two things is not the it may come as a package, but there are a lot of old people who are also very, very savvy in IT. So please do not have that idea that the millennials are very clever in this and the older people are not. I think it's all in the mindset. I also have come across millennials are even older in mind to the old traditional, you know. So I think that's one of the key points to not, number one, use the what do we call it, age or whatever as the main whether these people are useful or not. But if you ask me whether we need millennials, yes, definitely, because they do give a different version of things. By the way, if we have a company now, that company need to survive, and it will be led. It will be managed by millennials, and the market will be for millennials. So it's very stupid if we do not want to put the millennials in, to welcome them into the board. So that is definite. But to say that, like we have such a distinct line between the traditional and the millennial, I think we have to think hard about that, because, there are people who can cross that quite well.
Okay, don't worry. I got it.
Oh, yeah.
I got
Sorry.
something stuck to my head. Okay, but these are stereotypes, right? I mean, like we always face stereotypes. We go into a boardroom and we see somebody is elderly, then we have a certain perception of them, and then the elderly has a certain perception of the millennials all the time, right? They are impulsive. They don't like to talk. You know, I drive my daughter sometimes to work, and she's very quiet. But then she will send me a lot of messages after I drop her off. And if I call her, she never answers. So, okay. Listen, what do you think?
You suddenly sound like my father.
Ayo, see? Stereotype.
Yeah, because we have this family chat and we always put our messages on WhatsApp. And then my father said, enough of WhatsApp. Can't you all just pick up the phone and call? I don't know how many of you will actually resonate with this, but even within family communication, sometimes we have communication breakdown because my father, he's older than you, don't worry. He expects us to call, pick up the phone and call if you need something or if you want to discuss something. But all four of us, the siblings, would like to put our messages or we discuss things over WhatsApp. I think this is just the way we communicate, because maybe we think that if we type it out, we can look at it, then we send. But when we say something, perhaps out of emotions, we may offend our parents. So sometimes when it comes to very difficult things, we like to put it up on WhatsApp. Even just talking about where should we meet for dinner, PJ or KL. Two will be working in PJ, two will be working in KL, and my father is going to be somewhere else. So we have to come to a consensus. Is it 7 or 8:30? For the other two who have to travel to the other side of town to meet. So even small things like that, I think it's the way we, not only about the words we use in terms of communication, but how we do it. I think the method of which we communicate sometimes also put my dad off, although none of us have said anything wrong, because he feels so agitated. He said, I have to scroll and scroll and scroll. I don't know what is the decision. I don't know what time we are meeting, and I don't know where we are having dinner. So maybe at some boards, when we have 7 older people, whether they are male or female, doesn't matter. But then suddenly you have 2 very young people with, the age gap of in between maybe 30 years old among all of them. Maybe it's just the method that we communicate. Nothing wrong with the language, nothing wrong with the attitude, but expectation of how you should be communicating your messages actually put people off without us even realizing it. So your daughter, nothing to talk to you, but after she gets to lots of messages, and you thought, what's wrong with her? Why can't she talk to me? I wouldn't eat her up. But then maybe at that time, she just doesn't feel like talking about it, or she didn't think about it. But when she gets to her phone, that's when the flow of communication comes. So people of my generation or younger, maybe the way we have our verbal diarrhea is through typing. It's not through talking. So maybe that's just how we are. Well, I pretend to be young. I'm not so much younger than Zamir and Nadir. But I think coming to how do we manage stereotypes of the young and old on the board is that from my personal experience, I feel that there's actually no glass ceiling. At the corporate level, I only see layers and layers of men, old men. Really, there's no glass ceiling. So this is speaking from personal experience. And I was fortunate enough to serve on boards of either NGOs or corporate companies. And I feel that some key takeaways that I would give to my generation of people, and also a lot of seniors here, is that I think there are maybe 6 key things that we need to think about or address when we want to make the relationship of the younger and the older generation smoother and more cordial. I think number 1 is trust. It really takes a lot of effort for young people to gain the trust of an older person. Whether the old person is more knowledgeable, have higher ranking in the corporate or in the society, whether that older person have got more titles in front of his name, but the trust will not be established between the young and old. Trust has to be two ways. Trust really doesn't just mean that the older people must trust the young people, therefore the young people get to do something. It is also very important for the older generation to obtain the trust of the younger people so that the younger people will not also feel intimidated if they want to suggest something. Because one of the things that I realized in an Asian society is that we all judge people. The younger one judge the older ones similarly also judge the younger ones. So it is both ways. So if we don't establish the trust that we can be comfortable with each other, that we can keep the conversation in the boardroom and to be objective about it, nobody wants to talk. So everybody keeps something and say that very little bit of something because you have to say something. And eventually we can't really reach a consensus and to help the board move forward very constructively because the trust is not there. But of course, to the younger people, the trust needs to be earned. Credibility and confidence needs to be earned. We cannot come onto the board and say, oh, we are young. I come from Harvard. I know tech, you don't know. I know how to hack, you don't know. I understand cybersecurity, you also don't know. So I'm going to tell you what to do now. But again, in business, like the keynote speaker this morning, he said, many of the unicorns of the world today, for example, Uber, Airbnb, you talk about WeWork, who are about to go bust, they are big. Market cap is huge, bigger than a lot of all your firms here put together combined, but they are not making money. So, trust, this word, it's really not only between board members, young and old, it is also between investors and the company, and also company with consumers. So I think if companies or leadership of companies can really embrace the word trust and work on trust, is actually a value that we all need to work on. So that's one. Number two, skill sets. I feel that young people today may have very high IQ because most people are educated, but that doesn't mean that they have EQ. Most people that I heard from my older mentors always say, yeah, don't think they are smart, talking to the younger ones. Don't think you are smart because you have 2 PhDs and 5 masters. You don't know how to speak. You ask a rude and shrewd question and you expect a good answer. It's not going to work. So I think to the younger people, we need to learn to have high IQ. We need to learn how to ask the right question the right way. And I think if younger people are able to learn to have higher IQ, respect the elder board members, I think then maybe the trust will come faster from the older board members. But of course, to begin with, the older board members must be willing to give space for the young people to perform and also to make mistakes as well. So number 3 is going to be out of talking, that's related to EQ that I've spoken about. Number 4 is be patient. Patient also come in, it also targeted to both the generation. Young people wanting to teach older people technology, that says a lot. If you have younger kids at home and if you don't understand a technology and if you ask, you can look at the face. How many times have you asked me? How many times have I taught you how to upload the file? Right? And if you change your phone, suddenly you suddenly become digital illiterate because it's actually the same phone, but you just don't know how to do it. So we at home, we have gone through this process with our parents. Every time we buy them new phone, we all like, roll eye. Again, you have to teach them all over again, although it's one iPhone to another iPhone. You still have to do the same process. So to the young people, if we can be a little bit more patient in explaining about new technology, how disruptive it's going to be, impact on companies, and make older people understand, I think that will work. But again, older people also need to give space and be patient to listen. Because most of the time, the dilemma or the challenge that we are facing is that we could see it coming, the seniors can't see it. And they would say, it's not like that. Regulations say cannot. The policy is not like that. So when we are so stringent about how things are being done and how it can be done in the past, nothing innovative can come out of that table. So if both sides can be patient and bagi chance, we always say in Malaysian, give chance to both sides to understand, to learn, and to speak, I think we will be better. Number 5 is manage expectations. Young people always like to talk big. And I think this is a phenomena that I see when I do recruitment. Young people like to promise the sky and the moon, and I think about how to deliver later. In the past, it is the men who talk big, the female will be very humble. If can do, say can do, cannot do, say cannot do. So I'm sure all of you are in senior leadership position. When you hire in the past, I'm also sure that you have this experience whereby two similar candidates, if you get a male candidate in, the male will tell you, boleh, everything also can do. But when it comes to delivery, there's a lot of question mark. But when a female come in, she will be very honest and tell you, I know 1, 3, 5, 2, I'm not sure, 4, I go and learn. But when it comes to implementation and delivery, you can be rest assured that the lady will deliver, the man you don't know where they run to. Or they will get somebody to do it for you. Sorry, but I'm just sharing experience. So another thing which I would like to throw on the table is actually self-regulation. In the past, Asian leadership and practice is that top-down. I'm the boss, I tell you what to do. Or I'm the father, I tell my kid what to do. And then to government tell people what to do. But today, I think the situation have changed. You see a lot of things will work better if it is a bottom-up approach. That's why you do a lot of engagement program. You want to listen to the people. You do town hall. Whether you really want to listen or you just pretend that you want to listen, you have to pretend that you are listening, right? So that's engaging. You want people to feel that you are listening to their needs, that you want to know what are their demands, and then you want to meet halfway. So if both sides can self-regulate and have a middle point whereby you come and meet, so that when you make a decision, so the middle point can be the senior millennials like me, the really old millennials, that we kind of understand what the baby boomers are thinking because they are like our parents' generation. And then we kind of like understand the Y and the Gen X because they could be our siblings. So if people like us will be the intermediary, that we kind of understand both sides, but maybe we won't get either side right anyway. But if we can communicate that better, so that become the middle ground whereby the top will use this channel to test the market with the younger ones. Because sometimes if you have 2 generation gap or 1 generation gap in between, you really may get, frequency in sync and you're just not talking to each other. And I think a diversified board, not only in terms of gender, but in terms of age group and experience, will be able to mitigate that. Thank you.
Wow. Lot of information. Just imagine if we allow her to type.
Sorry.
No, it's very good, very good. One of the things is that you see elders and even with parents or uncles and aunties, they will not be so receptive to new things. So it's very hard to convince them. Zeman, I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think that, sorry to startle you. Do you think that's difficult? I mean, you must see a lot of elderly people convincing about your ideas, government, private sector, trying to get funds.
So the work that we do in Teach Malaysia is that we want to disrupt what's going on in the classroom as well. Talk about the power dynamics that happens there between teacher, adult, with student, child. The mindset that typically goes in, and yes, there's a lot of rhetoric that's talk about like, oh, teachers should be facilitators, but that transition hasn't happened yet. And I think it's only what we see happens very rarely. It's still a very chalk and talk method, and still talking down to the kids. To truly like empower and listen to students, what we do in Teach Malaysia, we have to demonstrate it, right? So we actually run programs in which students identify and solve problems and then pitch it to adults. And what we found out is that principals, teachers, once they actually see the students doing it, then they believe it can be done. So sometimes I prefer not to talk about the work, but just show or get it done as well.
Do you think that can work in corporate Malaysia when we'll just invite some techies and t-shirts like yourself come over to the boardrooms and demonstrate things?
Yeah, that's an option. But if you don't, then someone else is going to do it first, and someone else would. You can decide whether you want to do that or wait for someone else to do it. So you don't have to be the first mover as well. But then you have to catch up. So everyone's just afraid, right, to let go of power in the end, and they like to feel like they're in control. So that's the challenge. And that's the leadership challenge, I would say, between the generations. I don't know if that comes to full circle to about convincing government, convincing donors. And I've gotten to a point where whenever I pitch Teach for Malaysia, if I don't get a buy-in or an understanding within 5 minutes, I decide this is not the right person. And I spend more time looking to find like-minded individuals rather than trying to convince someone. Because once someone is set in their views, it's impossible for me to change their point of view.
But a very good board member, I mean, he is a CEO of a JLC. He told me that, he's young, he's relatively young, and he's got, the Tan Sri and Datos and some one tone on the board member. He said, actually, the convincing is not done at the board meeting.
Yeah.
It's actually done beforehand.
Yeah.
So you have to go and see, jumpa, ngadap, and say, have coffee with them and so on, and then probably, bump into them and go for a club. Actually doesn't bump into them. He actually follows them.
Yeah.
He actually stalks them.
He's in touch with the PA.
Yeah,
and
he
the
actually
CEO.
stalks them, and he just accidentally say, "Oh, funny, I met you, Tan Sri," and then he'll just chat about his issues.
So I have
Does that work?
that works. I use that technique more for government
Okay.
engagement. But for my board, I had the privilege of setting up the organization and selecting also the board members. So I don't have to menghadap them like beforehand, but I even selected them carefully up front. Those that were open to views, those that wanted to. And then Teach Malaysia, now 3 of our board members are above 60. The others are between, youngest is actually 40 as well. So we actually have 3 men, 3 female, and racial diversity as well. So I would actually say if a CEO has a chance, select the board members up front to advocate for a certain criteria. And actually I set up a criteria of competencies that I was looking for, that each board member contributed, and it was made very clear how they're adding value.
So this is like what Yasin said. I mean, it's not about what you say; it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to approach it differently with the seniors.
Correct.
Bukan pergi kat board meeting
No,
1, 2, 3, 4, not like that.
yeah. And once I tried doing that a few times and I got yelled at, so I said, stop doing that. And then for good reasons as well, I made a few mistakes. And I appreciate the lesson there.
But are they willing to accept new ideas after you smoothly go through?
Sometimes, without breaking any financial or legal constraints, sometimes I have to show it first. And I think what I feel is that people only believe it once they see it happening. I come down to that. And because sometimes when you read about it on a slide or you read about it on a paper, it doesn't resonate with people that much. So they got to experience it. So one thing that we do in Teach Malaysia, one of our board members was very skeptical, didn't believe in the work that we did, right? We actually invited her when we were trying to court her to be a board of trustees. We invited her to teach in a classroom. And so she met our participant, she met the students, and whatever reports you read in the newspaper or research papers, it doesn't beat first-hand experience on the ground. And after that, she was bought into what we were doing, and she signed up as a trustee, and now she's like raising tons of funds for us. So quite
How old is she? Yeah.
above 60.
Congratulations, very good.
Yeah. So she
So-
said no. So she said no a few times, and I had to recruit her.
Oh yeah. So she said no,
Yeah.
and you had to go.
So then I had to asking her to be a trustee first didn't really work, and then getting her into the classroom, then she was convinced about what we did.
Now, we see a lot of startups getting a lot more younger. They are basically, I mean, even going back to my daughter, I mean, she just got a job 2 months, and she's saying that, hey, I want to start a new company. Yeah. So I was going, wait a minute. You don't have the background. You need to build your network and so on. But Nadir, I mean, you started your company. Share your experience.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Mr. Chairman, Puan Zaitun, Zamir, and Yinsin, for putting a very convincing argument as to why we should have young people in the board. And in fact, if I have a personal KPI, my personal KPI is to convince all of you today, especially in the position of board directorships, to actually appoint young people in the board. So I'll put forth some arguments, and let's see whether we can agree or disagree on this. First of all, I think I definitely agree with whatever that was mentioned earlier, that we need to have diversity in the board. So not just racial diversity, not just gender diversity, but also a mix of young people and old people. Not old people, senior people. I think Yeah, it's not very nice, not politically correct. Experienced people on the board, right?
Orang lama, orang lama.
Orang
Orang tua, orang lama.
Otai. I think that will give a certain dynamism of the inside the board, and it will allow the conversation to be deeper, and it will allow the discussions to be more productive and innovative. Also, there's a concept these days in corporate Malaysia, something called reverse mentoring, right? And it's picked up by even the largest organization in company in Malaysia, which is Petronas, where you have young people mentoring the senior executives and the board of directors in terms of technology, in terms of digital economy, and we've seen this, getting more and more popular across the world. But really, are these two reasons enough, right? Are we really going to appoint young people to our boards? Well, coming back to this entrepreneur story, if you look into the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs and the of the world, they are young people. And you don't have to go very far. Look in Malaysia, Anthony Tan, he's 34, right? Ringgit Plus CEO, Han Liu, he's 32, right? Ching, he's 33. And, we have people in Indonesia, Nadiem Makarim, the co-founder of Gojek, who's 35. Fajrin, the president and co-founder of Bukalapak, also 33, right? And these people are definitely young people, and they can prove that they can build fantastic companies and billion-dollar companies. So that's one example. So if these people are the benchmark, if these people are 100% and are, say, outliers of the the total pool of entrepreneurs, I'm pretty sure in Malaysia we can find people who are perhaps 70 to 80% of these unicorn entrepreneurs. I'm sure we can find. I'm sure there are gems out there that we can upgrade to board member status. And from personal experience, in August of 2019, Tun Mahathir appointed 3 young individuals to something called the National Economic Action Council, which is 3 individuals: Razi Tajuddin, Han Liu, as well as myself. So I can say that's already a demonstration of how a combination of corporate captains, which are more senior, academicians and senior ministers. When we come in, I think we add a certain level of depth. I think we add a certain level of flavor to the conversation, and I think you can ask the other council members whether we actually add value, but I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I think we do add a certain value to the council. So my proposal for perhaps people who have the power to decide board directorships in companies, why not we have at least 1 or 2 positions of young people being put in the board, right? And they don't have to have voting powers even. Why not just put them there, get them to learn, get them to understand, how a board functions, and they can add, they can give their opinion on how the company should move forward in the future, right? And that's perhaps the main proposal. Second proposal, if let's say that's a bit too radical in terms of corporate governance, why not we create a shadow board? A shadow board of young people, that comprises of the chairman, that comprises of the board directors themselves, with young people inside the company, and then they can debate. They can discuss about the company's well-being, and then and what we can do to further improve the company, right? In terms of the question, are we ready? Definitely. More and more entrepreneurs these days are starting up their own businesses. I think the cost of doing business is going lower and lower. 20 to 30 years ago, it will cost a dime a dozen to create a company. But these days, all you need is a mobile phone to start a company. And really, 20 to 30 years ago, we don't have ecosystem institutions such as the likes of Cradle, the likes of Teraju, the likes of MDV, the likes of MAFCAP, right? That's supporting local entrepreneur ecosystem. But now we have, and I think that's where you're gonna motivate, and that's where you're gonna stimulate more young entrepreneurship inside this country.
Thank you. But always people ask, the seniors always goes, show me the money. I know we always startups and so on, and they always go, fine, you got great ideas. You want me to invest millions, even hundreds of thousands, but where's the money? After one, I had one case where basically, you know, an elderly goes, you know, this company I invested actually about 1 year ago, but they haven't profitable yet. And so what's the so they're always asking where's the money, you know, because the seniors they got money, but then they will say, okay, I mean I can put in FD or I can put it in my, you know, ASB account or whatever and put the investments in property. But why am I putting into a startup? And they always ask me after they invest, say, well, you know, where's the money? Show me the money. Is that something how challenging to you, to some of your colleagues in the industry?
Definitely, I think you know, obviously investors would invest in based on financial reasons, but you know, on top of financial reasons, there are also social impact that's created by startups. You know, at least for the lorry, we connect customers, whether it be from corporate or individuals, to owners of lorries, vans, and pickup trucks. And more often than not, these drivers are from the B40 segment. They are the boss, and they are the ones driving the trucks. And you know, thanks to our investors, we can actually empower them, not just to give them jobs, but also to allow them the opportunity to get, say, batteries and engines and truck maintenance, insurance and financing capabilities at a lower cost than they would have if, let's say, they went themselves. So yes, obviously we need to deliver returns. We need to show the money at the end of the day. But startups, they create not just financial impact, they create societal impact as well. And obviously, we produce the best of jobs. You know, we produce talent in digital marketing. We produce talent in software development, where it will definitely improve the high skilled segment of our workforce, which is about 27 to 28% of the total workforce. And I think the government is targeting to hit 35% by 2030. And I think, you know, startups can be the catalyst to this.
Good. But do they understand that startups have a gestation period? But basically, you're basically going to burn a lot of cash for a certain X period of time. Do these investors?
I think angel investors may perhaps the more senior one, they might not understand as much. I suppose the institutions, the venture capitals, the venture debts, they will understand. They will understand that there is a gestation period between say 3, 5, 7 years before they can make profitability.
I mean, cash flow is
Oh,
critical.
3 months.
3 months, what do you mean?
Teach Malaysia survives on 3 months on a rolling basis.
Ah,
Tough. But we make it clear to all our hires as well.
okay.
Um,
Are the hires okay with that?
yeah, surprisingly,
This
Yeah.
is a millennial thing, is it? Or Z, Generation Z thing?
yeah, but I think we shifted away as well from cash flow. And also we shifted, because again, we're an education program. We focus on leadership development. There is a mission to contribute. Our mission is directly social impact. So putting that at the front, social impact plus opportunity for our young staff members to grow. We give them crazy task. Even our interns rate us very highly on an intern job portal site, saying like they get real work because that's what we need them for.
Not making teh tarik. and
No photocopying.
yeah.
I'm not allowed to ask for any of that.
You do it yourself.
Yeah, have to, and I have to sit outside with everyone so that they're not afraid of me.
Okay.
But yeah, cash flow is very difficult, especially in a not-for-profit. We don't give any financial return except the feeling that people are contributing towards a better nation.
Interesting concept. But there's a global trend basically wanting companies to be more socially, I mean, you mentioned this. I mean, we all have experience being more socially inclined. I mean, and there's Industrial Revolution 4.0 playing a role in changing how consumers want. Yasin Zaitun, can you comment on your experience on the board?
About changing consumers.
Yeah, consumer demand and especially about consumerism.
Well,
about
actually,
social-
I'm rather controversial on many things, but I can tell you this. Very interestingly, you mentioned about connection is now between millennials and the more older generation. One of the things that's missing, I know this is controversial, is that the banning of smoking is actually bad. the banning of smoking in shops, in restaurants is bad. I tell you why. Because in the Mat Saleh culture, after an office or something like that, meeting, they go to the bar and have a drink, right? For us, it's teh tarik. Because we cannot take alcohol, so we go to teh tarik. But the fact that now you cannot smoke in the mamak shop means people are standing around under the tree, 3 meters away from the nearest table, and you cannot get a good discussion going. A lot of good ideas come from the back of envelope discussion, meaning informal, as you said. People talk about things. But sorry to say, I'm just being controversial. I'm just trying to, just to make a statement. The banning of smoking has prevented that. See, smoking here is, in this context, a social event, a social need. Because when you smoke, for the guys, I don't smoke. And I really don't, it doesn't really bother me because as far as I'm concerned, we could easily zone things into smokers and non-smoker. I can sit on the non-smoker side.
How do you have a creative juice? If the guys smoke, for the ladies...
Well, I make sure, the fan is like, the fan is blowing the thing away
but
from
when you discuss about your creative ideas with your fellow ladies...
Yeah, I don't think that small span of time is detrimental to my health anyway. I mean, it would take long exposure to smoke for you to have any problem, I think. No, I'm just saying that sometimes we do things, we take away the fun of doing things. I mean, the fun of talking, to discuss, happens in a very informal setting. And sometimes you take away the informal setting. I personally feel that I have lost a lot of friends from sitting down and having teh tarik and discuss things only because they cannot smoke anymore. I mean, I tell them, you can smoke under the tree. I mean, but I'm not about to stand under the tree with them, for a long period of time. It's not a joke. It's just my observation. The role of things. Smoking here. I'm not promoting smoking. I'm just saying that if it's allowed, at least I think some informal and very, very good interactive sessions can still take place.
But wouldn't that be a problem in itself? That why doesn't that fun interactive session happen in the workplace?
Because people start relax. Okay, forget. Okay, another issue here is in Malaysia, there's an issue of power distance. I don't know whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it's up to you, but the power distance issue is a real issue. Malaysia is touted as one of the highest country in the world with a power distance. If you have a Tan Sri, a Tun, and a Datuk there, unlikely you can take the mic and, trying to be, like really, somewhere along the line, you will know your place in life. Somewhere somebody will stare at you and say something. Yeah, okay. I'm not. I have no fear of people in power only because I think I'm not rude. I may be strong in my opinion, but I'm not rude. You see, it's manners. Go back to adab, as you said. And sad to say, the millennials are not good with adab. And why? Because we, the parents, we were wrong. I mean, we should have slapped them left, right, and center when they were growing up. But we prefer to, mother them and smother them with lots of luxuries, as if, we have produced some very weak individuals because the parents were very protective. Now, I've got an auntie who was a professor, and she worked and worked and worked. Why? Because she wanted to buy houses for all her kids. Now, why is that? Why should she be working to buy houses for her kids? But this is the problem with the baby boomers. I'm one of them, so I know. You see, and therefore, to understand the millennial, and don't forget, now the millennials, I am one generation away. I mean, 2 generations, because there's an X in the middle of it. But the point is, the thing is, the way we think is very different. But that does not mean that we cannot, contribute, as I said, but in Malaysia, the power distance, the formality. I'm so sorry. Today I come in jeans because I told them I'm an old person, but I want to wear jeans. Why? Because I want to feel young, I'm with the millennials, right? And I noticed in the room, everybody nearly pakai black. What is that? We are still very traditional. Why don't you come in colors? Why do we come in red jacket? You don't want to be like sticking like a sore thumb, you see? Because this is not a rock concert. By the way, talking about BOT, I used to work for a multinational, a Danish company. I tell you a little bit about this company. The reason why I want to tell you is because I used to work under my CEO, Lars Rebien Sorensen, and in 2016, he was voted the best CEO in the world by Business Harvard Business Review. So he has done some good things in the company. I'm very happy to have worked under him. Now, what did he do? Well, to tell you the truth, all the things that you have said, they have done it 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they've done it. Diversity. We had people of all sorts. And over there, it's even worse because it's Danish. So, I think there's some gays and LGBT already in the board at that time from there because they are very liberal. Right? But the thing is, talk about trust, talk about openness. It's all there. I really enjoyed working under him because, he teach you to be confident and to say something. And don't forget, being Danish, it's very egalitarian. They're a bit more, everybody has got a same say, Their power distance is very short. In fact, if you're in a room and you don't say anything, they say, "Why are you here for? Why are you here? Why are you so quiet? Have you not got any ideas? Nothing is stupid. Nothing is silly." You see, if you have that kind of environment, people are more willing to talk. But in Malaysia, sometimes that's the problem. You have very strong chairmen who have very big titles and he bangs the table. Then you know your place in life, as I said, Most people were just...
So what you're saying is that don't overdo it on the social thing? As a baby boomer. I mean, let it go with the flow.
No, the baby boomers, you see, the baby boomers feel they have done wrong, actually, to be very frank. I think they now realize their mistake. Because the millennials become they feel entitled. Really? Some. You are very good. You're the exception. You say there's always a normal curve. The normal is there, you are outside, you're the outlier. But there are people who generally feel they are, entitled. But I tell you one thing, good. You must believe in good people. I believe in Malaysia, I have come across very clever people. I do social work as well. I'm an art collector and I also do social work. What I do is when I meet people, I always have an open mind as to whether... Some people cannot even converse in English, but they're very brilliant people. Just because they are from the kampong doesn't mean that they're stupid. You must remember that. Just that they don't know how to speak English doesn't mean that they're stupid. That they don't have anything to say. Sometimes some of the things they said really jolts your, So you have to be open as a person. And, walking the ground, as I said, teach me a lot, expose me to a lot of things. And therefore I am, I do make controversial statements, like the smoking thing. Right? I mean, as joke lah, tapi in a way, there's some truth to it. I think as far as, again, not so much power distance, it is, okay, in Malaysia, there's another thing. People tend to be very personal. You say something, kau jaga. You wait lah, I'll get back to you one day. You see, in the Mat Saleh setting, it's the issue that you discuss. Always the issue. Never mind, I gaduh with you now, it's the issue because I don't agree and I give my point, you give your point, fine. You walk out the door, you're still friends because it's never personal, it's the issue. Here, no. Here, you discuss like that, never mind. Kena 2 kali like that, okay, you watch out. You see? I'm so sorry, but you still have this kind of, environment. And that's not good. So in order for us to talk about, going forward as a corporation, we have to buang all those things. Just because they are young doesn't mean that they do not know. They have to contribute. Just because we are old also doesn't mean that we are stupid or very, very don't know anything. No, we also bring to the table experience and confidence and having seen things, for example. As I said, some of those people sit on board used to smoke pot in their younger days. I mean, please, they were the hippie Woodstock generation. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just that they're very liberal at that point of time in their thinking, in their approach, for example. So the question is, again, if you look about, in the future, the point is be respectful, for the young generation. Be respectful. Don't be personal. Issues are, and don't be afraid of the hierarchy. And in order to do that, you must also be prepared and not, as I said, do not simply, say in a very rude or very uncouth way, just to show that you are very clever. I mean, as you said, I'm from Harvard. I had that before. I had somebody from headquarters came to Malaysia when I was the head of the Malaysian operation for the international company, and he said, "I'm from Harvard." So I said, "So?" Why? Because It doesn't matter to me at that point of time. I mean, you might be from Harvard, you might be clever. I'm sure you are clever. There's no doubt about that. But that has no bearing on whatever we were doing at that time. You see? Just saying that I'm from Harvard, I'm supposed to be like, oh my God, and I feel small. No, I don't. I don't at all, because I'm sure you are very good, but we also have our good points. And I think that can only come if you have the confidence. You see, a lot of people, actually it's very easy to unsettle people. I'm quite good in unsettling people. To make people feel small, I can do it, but I don't like to do it. What for? I mean, you don't get the best. The best thing is to be open and honest and ask for people's opinion and listen. How many people actually bother to listen? You see, the older people never also listen. You cakap lah, dia tak dengar pun. And then the older people talk, the younger people also never listen. Never listen. I mean, you know from the line of questioning that they never listen. And sometimes people do come to me for advice, not because of anything, but because I listen.
Now we have to listen to a millennial. Kita mesti dengar millennial, dia ada side pula.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tengku
Move away a
Zafrul.
bit.
I don't bite. Okay, addressing the third questions that we now see global trend of consumers wanting companies to be more socially and environmentally fair. I think this generation, maybe my generation and younger, are actually an automatic generation of digital citizen and subscribers of sustainability. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that perhaps to my seniors, the word digitalization is something that you have to learn. You have to understand why. I can do on the paper why I have to use a computer. Even until today, sometimes I talk to some of the elder bookkeeper. They will say, I write faster, calculator faster. Don't put in a system, it's going to take too much time. And they cannot find where are things. But to my generation and younger, it is automatic. 2 years old know how to play iPad. You don't have to teach them. So similarly, when sustainability and digitalism are being embraced by my generation and the younger colleagues of mine over here, it becomes something automatic, and it becomes a right of ours that we want to protect environment and we want to see justice in the society. I think this is something quite natural. Of course, this comes with education, awareness, the media is doing the job and all that. And I think for IR, of course, is playing a role in the changing consumer behavior because the mindset of consumers have changed today. If you look at Uber, Grab, Gojek, all these are unicorns of different regions doing exactly the same thing. They provide shared taxi services. But there's actually another angle to the three companies that I've mentioned. They actually provide an opportunity for a lot of the underprivileged people of financial literacy and financial inclusion. Why? Because when you want to become a driver, a service provider to all these platforms, you need to have a bank account. And you will be surprised that many people from the rural area of this region of ASEAN until today do not have a bank account. So when you don't have a bank account, that says a lot of things. Most of the time, you actually fall under a certain bracket of the B40 or even the B20 of the society, either because you don't have a stable job, you don't have consistent income, you don't have savings, therefore there's no need for you to have a bank account. So of course, there are different reasons to why financial inclusion is very important, but this platform of sharing economy, by the way, none of them are making money as yet. They are all still burning VC money, but people keep investing in them because I'm sure the VCs also see all of such unicorn a data company. They are not exactly a ride-sharing company that we see as consumers, like, oh, okay, it gives us convenience, it's cheaper than we drive, we don't have to park the car, and all the reasons of why we want to use all these services. But to the platform founders, many of them, especially Gojek, whom I've spoken to, he personally thinks that financial inclusion is a big thing in Indonesia. Therefore, he has 40 over services on the Gojek platform, not only the bike and the car that you see. There's spa treatment, food, there's facial, there's haircut, there's everything that you can think of and cannot think of. Just one Gojek app, you can lead a life. You can have your life, everything surrounding what you need on the Gojek platform, because he see that as convenience that he brings to the market. That's his business model and revenue point. But at the same time, he see it as a social impact work that he's doing for providing digital literacy, financial literacy, and financial inclusion to the people that he wants to reach out to. So yes, 4IR is playing that role in changing consumer mindset, but at the same time, it also indirectly and directly changed the mindset of the entire ecosystem. Look at that very young girl who spoke at the recent UN meeting. What did she do? She's now a nominee for Nobel Peace Prize, right?
Someone else won. Someone else won.
Yeah. So somebody.
Ethiopian Prime Minister, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, but then if you look at what has she done to give impact to the world, she actually just talk. Number one,
drama.
She drama. Yeah, she drama. She knows how to gamify her course. She took leave from school. She sat outside of the House of Parliament. She got notice. She was given a chance to present herself at the UN Assembly, and she did a good job. But of course, that's one link that made all of us know about her. I think none of us went to New York with PM, right? But we all know about this girl, Gretel.
So my question to you is,
social media.
Will Greta be a good board member?
I am not sure. I am honestly not sure, because we also cannot discount the fact that there's a lot of hype behind this. There's a lot of hype. She may be a good ambassador. She may be a good brand ambassador, because she is now the icon of climate change. She is now the icon of, even young people care about climate change, and you old people have robbed my future. Good icon, good messaging for that. But in terms of playing the role of the gatekeeper, of somebody showing leadership of how the company should be moving forward to sit on the board, is a big question mark. Number one, she has not completed studies. That's my concern. Number two, she's an advocate for now. I don't know how her future will lie. It's too early to tell. And I think,
I just want to jump in probably to the question about Greta, right? I would say she'd be a good board member for companies that are serious about sustainability. You don't have to get a board member, a young board member that can cover everything. You hire for the individual for a certain set of contributions, and if a company is serious about it, that they really want to change, she'd be a great person to hold them accountable.
Yeah, and because she's an advocate, so she becomes the face of it. She's the ambassador of it. So that's maybe the value that she can bring to the table.
But I think in our discussion is not just about her learning from her, but she can learn from other board members to mold her in a leadership position.
But really, I think she's way too young to be on the board. Yeah, she's really too young.
We need to open the floor to participants participating in this workshop.
Thank you. The genius in choosing the right people is getting all those factors right. And if you think you can improve board decision making with one factor, you're sadly misled. And that's a baby boomer speaking, but that's based on many years of trying to choose good people who will make a difference. Because that's what you want on a board, make a difference.
So what you're saying is that good decisions comes from different views.
Yes, exactly. And the one point that you made earlier on, and I think we lost it a little bit, is my language is you having to recognize that you've got people on the board who've got different intellectual styles. Some people who may come from an accounting background will be totally persuaded by the numbers. Give them a spreadsheet and you can get them across the line. Other people like to talk it through, and they need to talk it through 3 or 4 times. Other people show them a photograph. Other people, they need experience. And everyone on the board, part of your EQ is, what is my colleague like? Are they going to be persuaded by the numbers, by the argument, by the experience? And you've got to have the sufficient experience to make that judgment to get the right decision. So all I'm saying is, don't oversimplify the process. Diversity and managing the diversity is far more complex than it appears.
Thank you.
Can I just add?
Sure, please.
We wanted to invest in a company in the US. And the guy has a PhD in molecular biology and very, very learned, very top, and he also played the keyboard for Aerosmith. So what does it tell you? He's a rocker, but he's also a scientist. So this is something which I feel very strong, very important, because I also work for the European company, and they include people either at management level or board level, people from different backgrounds. For example, I come from a pharmaceutical, research-based pharmaceutical companies. So we have molecular guys, biological guys, name it chemistry, name it, a whole bunch of scientists with PhDs and all that. And the management has decided to put one creative guy in the R&D department. You know why? Because this guy will question, why not? The scientists say that cannot be done. The molecule pushing like this and like this, it will repel, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, but why not? But why not? Why can't it be delivered this way? Drug delivery system. Why has it to be a tablet? Why has it to be injection? What about putting it down, from your ass or from your mouth or inhale or from your ear? I mean, people ask stupid questions, but that is how progress are being made. So I think, more importantly, to include in boards are people diverse. Diversity includes people from different backgrounds, even though it might not seem like related, like in our research department, they bring in people from the creative side because they needed that, people to see things. I mean, if this thing can be injected like this, why can't it be injected like that? Or why can't it be just shoved somewhere else? I mean, people ask those kinds of questions. And if you're really serious in doing marketing for the people, in the millennials, for example, or whoever that you are serving, you must also then ask these questions. I mean, how can we do it better? How can we do it, If you have the same scientists looking at it, they're going to use the logical. Scientists quite logical. I mean, creative, but more logical. But sometimes you need somebody from outside that sphere to really challenge that. And at board level, if you have that, it's good. Now, another issue I want to bring out is that Grab, Airbnb, all broke the rules. Now, you must remember, those guys, people say Airbnb tak break rule. Of course you break rule. You break the DBKL rule. I mean, you're not supposed to, put people and earn money on a private dwelling. But people broke rules. Now, question is, if your board, sorry to say this to the Securities Commission or whatever, you have so many rules and regulations. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. For 20 years, your company were governed by, you cannot do this because you will be against the rule. And here come the idiotic millennials, at 30-year-old and broke all rules, made so much money, or in the IPO or whatever. People admire them, but from what is the starting point? Starting point is they broke the rule. Sorry to say, Air Asia, I know I'm not a fan of Air Asia, but Air Asia broke so many rules. They don't even pay Malaysia airports. They were riding high, they never pay 50 million Malaysia airports. I'm not saying anything. MAS probably would be hard-fetched to pay Malaysia airports. I'm not saying anything, but the point is sometimes the rules are not very fair. People who broke the rules are rewarded. So the question is, if you are on boards of this kind of company, you want to move ahead in this economy, do you break the rule? Cannot. The law says you cannot break the rule. Your SOPs, your compliance, you have like that, tebal. You cannot break the rule. So where is creativity going to come from? I'm sorry, this is being controversial, but I find this a very interesting thing. People admire people who break the rules. People who follow the rule are the fools because you cannot get anywhere, you are left behind. Why? Because you are satisfying a whole bunch of a set of rules and regulations.
That's a good question. Maybe that leads to here. It's one of the criteria of a youngster to be on board is somebody who's going to break the rules. Yeah. Huh? Maybe we can get an answer from one of the youngsters here and
Okay.
one answer from a senior in the audience.
Fantastic. I think just wanted to touch on your point earlier. I strongly believe and I strongly agree with you that when it comes to forming the board of directors, the quality of decision making of these board directors is absolutely critical. And in fact, that proves my point. Because if let's say you are a B2C company and you serve mostly millennials or young people, then it makes a lot of sense for you to have perhaps a representation of these young people on the board to give certain views, to give certain opinion on how you could grow the business even further. And obviously, we don't want symbols. We don't want the Gretas of the world to just be there in any organization as a symbol of youth. We don't want that. Just like how we don't want women to be inside board of directors just to be the symbol of women. We want them because they're capable and they're qualified to be inside those positions. And the criteria for young people to be in board director positions, of course, you must have domain expertise, you must have skills, and you must be willing to learn, and must have absolutely how to say a good communication skills and empathy when it comes to bringing forward your views on the board.
Good point, but can we get an answer? Well, can we get an answer from somebody from the floor, senior? Hamid? I call him Uncle Hamid. Well, you're on the board, so.
Get like-minded people
Like-minded.
in order to make his job easier.
Okay, yes.
So it's
Somebody
rare to get real diversity, of opinion. It takes courage for the MD, whoever in charge, the main shareholder, to bring somebody who will challenge him, So I think that's why some company fail because of that, because they reinforce all the bad decisions just to please the bosses. Okay? And it takes courage to be outspoken. So there's one company I work with now as a non-independent director. He developed his son, not because they are his son, because they are capable and proven to be capable. And one, I think they start in the 30s, one is still in the 30s, doing very well. The one being groomed. And this is a classic example, a rare example where somebody groomed their own son because of their capability and expertise. And he also encouraged divergent views. But that is very, very rare from my experience. Okay?
So one of the criteria you're saying is that they got to be able to say no to the senior guy,
Yeah.
the youngster.
But it takes courage to say no. And I think it also takes courage for the managing director to accept no as well. Okay? It works both ways. Okay? But for Millennial, I will encourage you to if you given the opportunity, take it, and prove yourself. Because although we supposedly wise people, when you look back, you are not as wise as you think you are. Okay? You're always in the process of learning. Okay? And there's a lot of things you can learn, especially from your children. Okay, bye.
Can I jump in?
Yeah,
just
that's a
quickly?
quick one,
Yeah.
because we've got two more Slido questions.
Yeah, so I think actually I'm going to answer the question. I think in terms of whether it's a nice thing to have, my personal point of view, it's no, don't do it because it's nice. Like really evaluate based on your point. Like, does it add value? And depends on the organization. So I really like the point that Nadir brought up earlier on. There are options to bring young people on without making such a big commitment. Like a visiting option. Like, so we actually have a space open for our alumni of our participants. The alumni president sits in every board meeting, shares views, but doesn't have a vote to then say what to do. We actually have students as a shadow council that then engages the board as well. So there's other ways that you want to build up and get views on. Once my board is comfortable, then yes, I would actually like to put a student like Greta, as young as Greta, because students speak truth sometimes, right? They're so brutally honest and authentic about what they want and what they don't want. And you want to bring diversity into that point. And that makes the case for me because I work in education. But I'm not sure which other businesses you're working in. Please don't just jump in because it's the hot thing to do right now. Like really evaluate which industry it's relevant.
Okay, but we're going to have a lot of arguments, disagreements, and so on. So there will be friction. And then when there's this friction, sometimes trust is gone. What is left? Is there any room to patch?
Well, I would like to add on to a little bit of what Zamir have said. I think that not-for-profit will have their own consideration when it comes to appointment of board members. SMEs will have a different set of criteria and the point of consideration. If you're a public listed company or you're really big but not yet listed, I think the point of consideration and what you really want to achieve on the board, at the board level, or even at the senior management level is going to be very different. So I don't think this is going to be a cookie cutter solution that, yeah, okay, it's cool to have a below 30, everybody has it, I also want to have it. I don't think it's going to work. And yeah, I think whoever that you appoint to the board, that person must be able to add value. I think that's very important. For all businesses, what's your bottom line? Is to make money. You want to make profit. Otherwise, you cannot be accountable to your shareholders. I think shareholder return is actually one of the deliverables of board members because you set directions, you provide governance to the management. So therefore, you need to make sure that the right people go on the board. However, why do we want diversity? We want diversity simply because sometimes we may not see things that we don't know or we don't feel it. Therefore, I mean, a younger male, different ethnicity may see things that I will never see it. So diversity will help us cover the blind spots. I think if we take that as the fundamental of why we want to embrace diversity, that could be it. As in whether when people fight, right? When there's multi-general boards disagreement happen and then stalemates will be frequent. I'm actually quite disturbed with the word stalemates over here because I feel that for people to come together as a board, the chair or the more senior board members should have higher IQ and better understanding of emotions and to manage the dynamics of the board. Of course, young people, we already use the word young. Not as wise as you, not as experienced as you, maybe very hot in the head, not as humble, not as mellowed as you, may not have the patience when they want to say something 3 times or 10 times and you still don't get it. So when there's friction like that, don't take it personally. Don't take it as if somebody have bruised your ego. I know I'm more controversial than Puan Zaitun now already. But I think if you take that, really take a step back and think about that. Really take it just very objectively that this young person is just too eager to prove a point. Take whatever the young people say with a pinch of salt, but don't doubt that person altogether. You may not even have to use the word stalemates because it will not happen. All you will find is that it takes longer time in the board meeting nowadays because in the past, when I'm the boss, I say, turn left, nobody there to look right. But now with group diversity, look up, look down, and look everybody. I don't want to come and don't want to do Skype meeting and all that. Of course, that's why I said earlier, it takes patience. When you want diversity, something's got to give. You really can't have the cake and eat it as well. But I can assure you with diversity, multi-generational diversity, gender diversity, ethnic diversity, like what Nadir has said, it's going to add value to the company if the chairman or the senior board members have a lot of EQ to manage the board emotions.
I think the solution to stalemate is to have an odd number board member. Lah.
Yeah, that's always the
settled.
case anyway.
Settled.
True.
My 2 cents on that actually, we have one trustee on our board that brought in specifically for facilitation skills. So they actually facilitate that. Doesn't have to sit with the chairman necessarily. So there's a trustee that facilitates.
Yeah, that's a good one to do. Yeah. So always somebody to come balance and, yeah.
Okay, we got just enough time for the last. Is it about losing control? Is it about there's the friction about losing control for elderly board members to a youngster?
Puan Zaitun can answer.
Oh, everybody pointing.
Only because I'm the old. No, you can challenge me anytime for anything because I also race cars, you see. I love driving and I race with very young people.
Wow.
Why? Because I like it. I don't have to have a reason for liking to do silly things. Sometimes you want to do things which is way beyond your normal and what people expect of you.
What sort of cars? What sort of cars?
Never mind. Okay. To talk about is the older and more experienced board members challenged with the millennials due to the fear of losing control? Never. You see, we bring to the board different things. We bring experience, we bring knowledge, we bring a lot of insecurities as well because you talk about Industrial Revolution 4, this generation is lost. I mean, I'm still a paper-based person only because I have problem with my eye looking too long on the screen. But on the other hand, the younger set of people, they bring with them the enthusiasm, new ideas. So why should we be afraid of that? You should embrace that. I mean, you see, I always tell people, if you don't have a confident board, a senior board member or management, then you are trouble. I'm very lucky. I saw my CEO just now, he left. But we were very lucky because I told my board members we are very lucky because our CEO is very intelligent, very clever, made our life very easy. And very receptive, very open. You see, when you have people like that, it's very easy to convince, not to say convince, to give your ideas. And if your ideas are not accepted, don't feel bad. Come on. I mean, since when, all your ideas must be accepted? The fact that you are allowed to express it, the fact that you can share your views is good enough. Somewhere along the line, maybe not today, we'll pick on the idea. Maybe next year we will pick on the idea. You know, the point, don't be so disheartened. I mean, the old man also cannot feel, oh, you know, who are you, young chiku, trying to tell me? I mean, that kind of, I will never do that. But if ever anybody else do that, I would tell them, maybe you should listen to the young chiku, because the young chiku may know much more than you see. And for the young people also, please, be a bit more tolerant and patient also with the older set, because some of them very slow. I mean, I still have people still wondering how to use the WhatsApp. I mean, you can't help it. I mean, we are analog. Remember, I'm the analog generation. So there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as I'm concerned, for me personally, I have no issues at all. I cannot say for others, but I wish all other board members to also have an open mind. I think there's no way you close your mind now, you're dead lah.
Okay, but is there anybody who want to comment about this losing control issue from the floor? Anybody who wants to share experience? Yeah. I totally disagree with you. Yeah, let's be diversities here, because maybe it's my last chance to disagree to any of my participants. But most instances in the chairman position in a board, the chairman is somebody who had a previous executive power. He's probably retired CEO, retired government servant, or something like that. But he had power last time, and now he's chairman. He is chairman of the board. And sometimes he has the syndrome of, I want power again. I want control again. Although it's in the board, but this is my control, this is my turf, right? So they will actually sometimes be overbearing and domineering and not allow alternative views to this discussion. So this is a bit of also culture change. I mean, it's a different way of trying to communicate to these type of characters, this type of individuals and personas of chairmanships in boards. That in the younger generation needs to do more the smoother way, like our good friend check out here, more smooth, and show them to experience it.
Just add, in that case, you bring in the consultants.
Oh.
Because I don't say it like the consultants say.
Yeah.
It's always like that. Why do McKinsey and all that make a lot of money? Because they go around telling exactly what they want to tell. But if they tell it, nobody listen. McKinsey cakap, they listen, pay 20 million.
That's counterproductive.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have found the workshop fruitful and enlightening. And we hope to see you in more workshops later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tengku, Farith, and to our panelists as well, Nadir Ashafiq, Ng Yin Sin, Puan Zaitun, and Zamir Zulkifli. Thank you very much for imparting useful insights to all of us. Please remain on stage as our photographer would like to capture a photo. And to all of our delegates here, do enjoy some coffee and refreshments outside at the foyer. We will begin our next presentation from our keynote speaker from the Netherlands at 3:20 p.m. Do report yourself to the plenary hall to your right-hand side as you exit this ballroom. We'll see you back in 15 minutes' time. Thank you.